Hi guys, this video is part 2 of how to declare a variable in JavaScript. So in the last video, I showed you how you could declare a variable in JavaScript using the keywords var, let, and const. Now notice we did not only declare variables, we also initialize them, which means we gave them values like this. And then I explained to you that using var and let, you could declare, initialize, and modify variables. So you could modify or update the values of the variables. If you need a refresher, variables store values because variables are like containers. When you use constants, you cannot change the values. They are fixed, and that's why they are constant. So when you declare them, you need to initialize them at the same time. This can be time consuming if you take a close look at it, because this means, let's say I want to declare 5 variables. Now I'm going to cancel this and I'm going to do it like this. First variable, this would be the third variable, and it takes me time. It's very repetitive codes, and you might be wondering if there is a faster way of writing that, because if you notice, I'm taking 5 lines just to declare 5 variables. I'm not even storing values in them. Well, thankfully, when you declare variables, you can declare multiple variables at the same time. You just have to separate them using commas. So to prove that this works, I'm going to have this console.log first now I have opened my console here, and it says line script 7. It's logging these 5 variables, and we have they are all undefined, just as we learned in the previous video, because we don't have any values in them. Now this is repetitive, so let's see if we can get the same thing but write these on one line. So here's how you would do it. Remove everything. Instead of putting a semicolon here, you just have to write a comma. So watch what happens here at the same time in the console. It's updating as I type. So second variable, third variable, fourth, and fifth. Now we have the same thing that we had previously, but we only have 3 lines of code. That one is an empty line, but I'm still counting it as 1 line. So we have only 3 lines of code, and we've declared our 5 variables here. So you can do the same thing if I was using let's. Same thing here. You cannot do this if you use consts. Now let's forget about naming conventions, etc. for now. That will be covered in a future tutorial. But for now, you can pause this video and try and remember, based on my explanation from my previous tutorial, why this doesn't work. If you were unable to answer that, just go back and watch my previous tutorial about how to declare a variable in JavaScript part 1. And then look at this error message here as well. There is no initializer. So when you have constants, you have to initialize them. This takes us to our next point. I'm going to remove this for now, and we're going to do something more interesting. This time around, we're going to initialize our variables, but we're going to look at 2 ways of doing that. So you know the first way of initializing a variable for now, which is like this: var first variable equals first. And then I'm going to copy to save time. I'm going to change this to seconds, this third, and this is the second one. Now, is this valid? I'm going to repeat the process: first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So I'm now console login, logging all this to the console, and we have here first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and it's from line 7 here. Now we just took multiple lines, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 7 lines of code just for that, and the process is almost the same. It's very similar. We are initializing variables. It's a very basic task. We don't need all these lines of code. So in the previous example I just did in this video, I used a comma to separate them. Right now they each have their own semicolon, so that is one statement. In JavaScript, statements are separated by semicolons. So it's not just in JavaScript, but in many programming languages as well. So semicolon, that is one statement, second statement, and so on. So what we have to do is just remove the semicolons here, remove the var keyword here, remove it here as well, Now this went to this line because I've enabled the text wrapping. Okay, so it's wrapping to the next line. And now close the statement with a semicolon. So that now is one single statement, this whole thing that you see here. So you initialize, then comma, initialize again, comma, different variables, var here, this keyword will apply to each of them. Now some people will have it that way as well. In this case, you're not really looking to save space or reduce the lines of code. You just want maybe to not write the keyword var all the time. So you have it that way. That also works. It's completely up to you. What's your preference? But if you are going to use a keyword once and initialize or declare multiple variables, I feel like having all of them on one line is kind of a better approach. That's just my personal preference, but it's up to you. So this works. We're going to try with let's again. Same thing, it still works in our console. That's what we have here. Okay, so in this case, again, I'm going to make one example with const here. I'm going to have const pi, okay, number 1 equals 1, and I'm going to have number 2 equals 2, and number 3 equals 3. And now I'm going to console.log number 1, number 2, and number 3. And it works. See here in the console, we have 1, 2, and 3 coming from here because we are initializing the constants. When we declare this variable number 1, which is the constant, using the const keyword, we are also initializing it. So we assign a value to it when we are declaring the variable, and we do this for each and every constant that we are initializing. So this is valid. Okay, so it's the same thing as if you had written it just like this. Same thing, it still works, but instead of repeating that keyword multiple times, you are following the pattern I just showed you. And yeah, so that's a better way of having it. Okay, so that was something else I wanted you guys to grab, because knowing how to organize your scripts, your code in any program or in any language is something important. It also saves you time. You don't have to write what you don't need to write. So if you can write a keyword only once, just go ahead and save time. So that's it for this part 2. Keep watching this series, this JavaScript for Beginners series, because I'll have much more. I even think that I'm gonna have over 100 videos in this series, so please make sure you subscribe, turn on your notifications, and make sure you share this video and drop any questions in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video, guys.